Did you know that Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events"? But there's something even deeper that the Stoics understood. True power lies not in winning every argument, but in knowing which battles to walk away from and which questions should never be answered. In my youth, I thought wisdom was about having the right words. I believed that silence meant weakness. But Timman and the teachings of the Stoics taught me that silence, when chosen with purpose, is strength. There are questions that are not meant to be answered, because answering them means handing over your peace, your dignity, your freedom. Today I'll reveal 5 of these questions, traps that manipulators and deceivers have used for centuries to gain control. They sound harmless, even friendly, but behind them lies a hidden intention. Seneca once said, "Whoever is calm and composed is hardest to deceive." Let us learn then how the wise remain calm and why they choose silence where others would argue. Before we begin, I want you to understand something. These are not just conversational traps. They are psychological instruments designed to shift power from you to someone else. Each one works by triggering a reflex, the reflex to explain yourself, to defend yourself, to justify your existence to someone who was never genuinely asking. Once you recognize the mechanism, you can no longer be caught by it. And that recognition, that moment of seeing the trap before you step into it, is the beginning of real freedom. Question 1. Why are you so nervous? I remember a day, years ago, when a colleague asked me this question before a public meeting. "Why are you so nervous?" he said, smiling. And without thinking, I replied, "I'm not nervous, I just didn't sleep well." That single sentence changed everything. From that moment, everyone in the room looked at me differently, as if I really was uneasy. It took me years to understand that I had fallen into a subtle psychological trap. When someone asks you, "Why are you so nervous?" or "Why do you look so tense?" they pretend to care. But often, they're trying to make you defend yourself. Once you start explaining, you've accepted their premise, that something is wrong with you. Epictetus warned us about this. When someone provokes you, remember that it is not the person who offends you, but your own judgment about it. The manipulator's goal is simple, to make you react. And the moment you react, the moment you begin explaining and defending and justifying, you have handed them exactly what they wanted. When I learned to stay silent, to simply say, "I'm fine," and return to the subject at hand, something changed. The power shifted back to me. Not because I was pretending, not because I was suppressing anything, but because I understood that my emotional state was mine. It was not available for public debate. You don't have to prove you're calm to anyone. Your silence, when born of self-mastery, becomes your shield. Think about it deeply. When a person is truly composed, they don't need to announce it. When a person is truly at peace, they don't need to defend it. The very act of defending your calmness is the first sign that the calmness has been disturbed. So the wise answer to, "Why are you so nervous?" is not an explanation. It is a return to the subject, a return to your center, a quiet, unhurried movement back to what actually matters. Never allow others to decide your emotional state for you. If they try to shake your balance, remember, calmness is the most elegant form of strength, and strength does not explain itself. There is also a deeper layer to this question that few people consider. When someone asks why you are nervous, they are implicitly claiming the authority to evaluate your inner state from the outside. They are positioning themselves as the judge of your emotions. And by answering, you are accepting that position. You are confirming that they have the right to assess you, label you, and require an explanation from you. The Stoic response is not cold silence. It is the warm, grounded recognition that your inner world is sovereign, that no one holds authority over it without your consent, and that consent, once given carelessly, is very difficult to reclaim. Question 2. Don't you trust me? I used to hear this question in relationships, not only romantic ones, but friendships and work as well. Every time I set a boundary or asked for clarification, someone would say, "Don't you trust me?" And immediately, guilt would creep in. I'd think, maybe I'm too cold, maybe I'm the problem. But over time, I realized this question is not about trust, it is about control. It is a way to make you doubt your own prudence, to replace your careful thinking with someone else's emotional pressure. Seneca wrote, "The first step to wisdom is to distinguish between what we can trust and what we must question." A wise person doesn't trust blindly. He trusts, but he also observes. He trusts, but he also verifies. He trusts, but he never abandons his own judgment simply because someone asked him to. Once, a friend borrowed a large sum of money from me. He looked me in the eyes and said, "Don't you trust me?" And I answered, "I do, but I also trust reality. So let's put it in writing." He laughed at first, then respected me more for it. That is the crucial insight. True trust never fears verification. A person who truly deserves your trust will never use the word trust as a weapon against your reasonable caution. They will welcome clarity. They will invite structure, because they know that their intentions are honest, and honest intentions survive scrutiny. The Stoic knows that caution is not suspicion, it is awareness. It is the reasonable acknowledgement that the world contains both trustworthy and untrustworthy people, and that wisdom requires distinguishing between them. As Marcus Aurelius said, "A man should stand erect, not be kept erect by others." This means your judgment, your discernment, your ability to think clearly. These are yours. They are not to be surrendered because someone felt offended by them. So when someone tries to corner you with, "Don't you trust me?" breathe deeply and remember, a trustworthy person never demands blind faith. They respect your boundaries because they respect truth. And if someone responds to your reasonable caution with offense or pressure, that response itself is information. The question, "Don't you trust me?" when used manipulatively, is asking you to trade your wisdom for their comfort. The Stoic answer is to hold both, to maintain trust where it has been earned, while never abandoning the quiet, steady awareness that protects you. Question 3. What are you hiding? This one can pierce the heart. I've heard it in moments of tension when I simply wanted peace, but someone wanted control. Why are you so quiet? What are you hiding? In my younger years, I used to explain myself endlessly. I'd say, "I'm not hiding anything," and list my reasons. But it never worked, because explanations rarely satisfy those who are not seeking truth, only power. Seneca said, "He who seeks wisdom should not justify himself to fools." Because when you answer such a question, you accept the role of the accused, even when you've done nothing wrong. You step into the dock, you pick up the burden of proof, and once you are in that position, it is very difficult to leave it with your dignity intact. A manipulative person uses this question to cross your inner walls, to make you expose what you wish to keep private. And privacy is not guilt. Privacy is dignity. The right to an inner life, to thoughts, feelings, and choices that belong only to you, is not a sign of deception. It is a sign of a healthy, sovereign self. I learned to respond differently. Everyone has a right to their inner space. That doesn't mean I'm hiding anything. Or sometimes I simply mirror back. Why do you think I'm hiding something? These words shift the burden back to them. You'll notice that the manipulator usually changes the subject because the goal was never to know, but to dominate. The question was never a genuine inquiry. It was a probe designed to find a crack and widen it. If you are constantly being accused or questioned in this way, reflect deeply. The person who repeatedly asks, "What are you hiding?" is often projecting their own concealment onto you. They know what it feels like to hide things because they do it themselves, and so they assume everyone else must be hiding something too. Perhaps the real secret is not yours, but theirs. There is also something important to understand about the nature of silence. Silence is not absence. Silence is not emptiness. Silence, chosen deliberately, is one of the most powerful statements a human being can make. It says, "I am not required to perform my inner life for your examination. I am not on trial, and I choose, with full awareness, not to respond." That choice, the choice of dignified silence over anxious explanation, is the heart of Stoic practice. Question 4. Do you think you're better than everyone else? This question usually arrives when you start living differently, when you stop gossiping, stop reacting, stop arguing when others want to fight, stop participating in the collective diminishment of absent people. That's when someone will say, "Oh, so you think you're better than us now?" I used to defend myself. I'd say, No, I don't think I'm better." But that's another trap. You end up apologizing for your growth. You end up shrinking yourself to fit someone else's comfort. You end up pretending that the changes you've worked hard to make don't exist. Epictetus said, "If you wish to be good, first believe that you are bad." Growth requires humility, but humility is not submission. Humility is the honest recognition of where you are and where you have yet to go. It is not the pretense that you have made no progress in order to avoid making others uncomfortable. I remember a dinner with old friends. Everyone was mocking another person who wasn't there. When I stayed silent, one of them laughed and said, "Come on, you think you're too wise for this?" At that moment, I realized my silence wasn't arrogance, it was peace. I simply did not want to participate in something that felt wrong. Not because I was superior, but because I had made a quiet decision about who I wanted to be. So when someone tries to shame you for walking a different path, answer calmly, "I'm not better, I'm just choosing what feels right for me." Or simply, "I respect your path, please respect mine." The crowd always mocks what it doesn't understand. Growth is threatening to those who have chosen not to grow. Change is unsettling to those who have decided that change is impossible. When you begin to live according to your own values rather than the group's expectations, you become a mirror that reflects what they have not done. And mirrors are uncomfortable. The Stoics understood this well. They knew that the path of wisdom would not be celebrated by everyone. They knew that composure would be mistaken for coldness, that deliberateness would be mistaken for arrogance, that inner peace would be mistaken for pride. But they also knew that the opinion of the crowd was not the measure of a life well lived. Marcus Aurelius himself, Emperor of Rome, one of the most powerful men who ever lived, faced mockery, criticism, and misunderstanding. And his response was not to defend himself, it was to continue walking his path. Those who try to pull you down are often the ones most afraid to rise. Your growth is not an accusation, but they may experience it as one, and that is their work to do, not yours. Question 5. You won't get offended if I tell you the truth, right? This one is wrapped in politeness, but it is poison coated with sugar. It usually comes right before someone intends to say something cruel, something unnecessary, something they have already decided to say, regardless of your answer. Years ago, I would smile and say, "Of course not, go ahead." And every time, I'd end up regretting it. because that permission I gave turned into a weapon. The moment I said, "I won't be offended," I had surrendered my right to any reaction. I had pre-approved whatever was about to come. Epictetus said, "If you want to be invincible, don't enter battles that don't concern you." When someone asks if you'll be offended, they are testing your limits, seeing how much disrespect you'll agree to absorb before it even arrives. One day, a co-worker said to me, "You won't get offended if I tell you what people say behind your back, right?" I paused. Then I replied, "If it doesn't serve peace, I don't need to hear it." He looked surprised, then nodded silently. That moment taught me something important. Not every truth is worth receiving. Not every piece of information improves your life. Not every revelation serves your growth. Some things are shared not out of care, but out of a desire to wound, and the question, "You won't get offended, right?" is often the announcement that wounding is about to occur. A person who truly values honesty will speak with kindness, not with warning labels. They will choose their words carefully because they care about the effect of those words. They will not need to preemptively disarm your defenses because they are not planning an attack. If they must ask for permission to offend, it is because they already know they are about to cross a line. So answer wisely. That depends on what you're about to say. Or, if you fear I'll be offended, perhaps you should reconsider saying it. This returns the mirror to their hand. It places the responsibility back where it belongs, with the person who is choosing to speak. You are not a passive recipient of whatever others decide to deliver. You are a sovereign human being with the right to protect your inner peace. And that protection does not require aggression. It requires only clarity. The quiet, firm clarity of someone who knows their own value. Now let us step back and consider what all 5 of these questions have in common. Each one is designed to make you react. Each one is a test, not of your knowledge, not of your character, but of your composure. They are probes sent to find the places where your peace can be disturbed. And once those places are found, they become the entry points for manipulation. The Stoic answer to all of them is not a specific set of words. It is a way of being. It is the cultivated, practiced, deepened capacity to receive a provocation without being destabilized by it. To hear a loaded question and recognize it for what it is. Not a genuine inquiry, but a move in a game you did not choose to play. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." And the deepest application of this wisdom is here, in these ordinary moments, the dinner tables and office corridors and late-night conversations where manipulation travels disguised as concern. When you walk away from these traps, you do not lose. You rise. Each time you choose silence over reaction, you become a little freer. Each time you recognize the mechanism before it catches you, you strengthen the muscle of awareness. Each time you return to your center, instead of defending a position you were never obligated to defend, you reclaim a piece of your sovereignty. This is the work of Stoicism. Not the dramatic renunciation of pleasure, not the cold rejection of feeling, but this quiet, daily, ordinary practice of choosing your responses instead of being driven by your reflexes. Seneca wrote, "As is a tale, so is life. Not how long it is, but how good it is what matters." The same applies to conversations. Not how long they last, but how much peace they leave behind. Not how much you said, but whether what you said came from genuine choice rather than anxious reaction. There is one more thing I want to leave you with. The 5 questions we discussed today are not rare. They are everywhere. They appear in relationships that are struggling, in workplaces that are competitive, in families that have old wounds, in friendships that have grown unequal. They appear in the language of people who may not even know they are being manipulative, people who learned these patterns themselves and have never examined them. This is why the Stoic response is not anger and not contempt. It is compassion, for yourself first, in the form of clear boundaries and protected peace, and for the other person, in the recognition that their need to control often comes from their own fear. You cannot always change the people around you, but you can change your relationship to what they do. You can develop the perception that sees the trap before it closes. You can cultivate the composure that makes the trap ineffective. And you can build, slowly and steadily, a life in which your peace is not dependent on the behavior of others. That is the Stoic promise. Not a life without difficulty, not a world without manipulators, but an inner fortress, quiet, strong, and genuinely yours, that no question, however loaded, can breach without your permission. Walk forward from here a little more aware, a little more grounded, a little harder to move from your center. And remember, wisdom is not about knowing every answer. It is about knowing which questions do not deserve one. If this message resonated with you, give this video a like and subscribe to Truth Psyche. Because this work, the work of seeing clearly and living freely, is worth continuing.